Hello, and welcome to the Urban Classroom. Hi, I'm Mrs. Briggs, and thank you for joining me today in the Urban Classroom. Today, I'm going to be teaching Unit 2 of 8th grade U.S. History, and this unit is called Causes of the American Revolution. This lesson, I'm going to talk about the economic policies that cause serious problems between the colonists who were living in a new world and with their government that was back in Britain. Let's get started with the Navigation Acts. Well, when the colonists came over to the New World, they knew that they were coming over. Some groups came for economic reasons. Some groups came over for religious reasons. And if you're going to Georgia, you're going there for social reasons, to have a second chance in life because you had a little problem while you were in England, maybe been to prison, maybe got into debt, and so you came to the New World. Now, when the colonists came to the New World, there has to be some trading going on. Got to build the economy, have to make money. Economics, every single colony has to be able to make money and support themselves. Now, the king knew that after each of the colonies got settled, they were going to be making pretty good money. So the king wanted to make sure that he was able to get a monopoly over the trade. Monopoly is like to control everything. If you ever played the game called Monopoly, the goal of the game is to get as much property and also to get as much money as possible. Well, that's what the king is doing. He's actually playing the game of Monopoly, but he's doing it for real. And he's using paperwork to get it done. Because remember, you cannot get anything done without paperwork. So this paperwork, this document, it will be called the Navigation Act. This will allow the King of England to control the flow of trade. He is telling the colonists, you cannot trade with any other country except England. That's it. Can't trade with Spain. You can't trade with Italy. You can't trade with any other country. You can only trade with me. Now, that was a way for the king to gain a lot of income, to get a lot of money out of the colonists by restricting their trade. Well, needless to say that the colonists, they don't like this because that's not fair. What if I wanted to sell my product over to Germany and they offer me more money? You tell me I can't do that? The king's like, no, you can't do that. You can only trade with me. That is because of the Navigation Acts. Well, there's another way that the king can get money is through a trade system called mercantilism. Now, with mercantilism, it's about imports, it's about export, it's about buying, it's about selling. If you speak a little Spanish, you might know the word mercado. The mercado, that's the market. That's where they're buying and selling, trading. Okay, so the king is using what is called mercantilism. He and Parliament created this unfair economic trade system. That's what the colonists said. They said it was unfair. Well, hey, that's what the king did. Now, this trade system kind of works like this. The colonists, they have raw materials like cotton, tobacco, lumber, rice, and they are sold to England, but the king wants a discount. He wants the price to be very low. Give him a deal, have him save some money. Okay, but the colonists, they have to buy what are called finished goods from England. The finished good could be a product that was made in a factory and produced, is ready to use. It could be paper, it could be tea, paint, or even glass. Well, when the colonists buy these items from England, we'll say from the king, then he wants to jack the price up really high. Well, that's not quite fair to the colonists because the king is making good money, but the colonists are not. Think of it as if we were selling lumber to the king, and for every log from the tree that we sell, maybe the king gave us $10. Okay, $10, that's not bad, or I guess $10 for every log. But then in England, they take that same log and they cut the lumber and they processed the lumber to make pencils. And for a box of pencils, say like 10 pencils, now the price is, say, $5. Well, wait a minute. I just sold you a whole log for like $10, but now you are selling me pencils, and for one box it's $5? Wait, what? That's crazy. Well, that's kind of a way that mercantilism worked. It was an unfair economic trade system, but this is what the king and parliament used to regulate imports and exports. Now, as time passed by, you have to be kind of concerned about who's coming into the new world and who is your neighbor. Because if you were from England and maybe people who were from France sent over more people, they could start a colony right next to your colony, and there could be some problems. Because the English colonies tend to have issues with the French colonies. It goes back hundreds of years of fighting different kind of wars, because England, France, you know, they have bad blood. Yeah, they don't like each other during this time. So these two groups of colonies, countries who sent over colonists, they were separated by what is called the Appalachian Mountains. It's over there in the west. You'll see it on the map, that long brown strip of land. That's the Appalachian Mountain. It is a natural barrier. It's a geographical boundary that separates those English colonies who are along the Atlantic coast, and then you have the French colonies that are past the Appalachian Mountains. Well, in the northeastern area, you're going to find the Ohio River Valley. And in this area is very good for like growing. You know, you can grow crops. You probably could start a farm in that area and make a lot of money. Also, you have a river in that area, the Ohio River. Now, rivers are very important for two main things. Whenever you hear rivers, two things that come to your mind like automatically: transportation and trade. Transportation and trade. A country will fight and kill people over a river. Over a river. Because of transportation and trade. That's money. Okay, that's what people money. Well, there's going to be some argument between the King of France and the King of England. They're arguing over who controls the Ohio River Valley area, who is getting more control over North America. So they're arguing. And anytime kings fight and argue with each other, they're really not going to do the physical fighting. That's going to be done by colonists, by soldiers. So the King of France has good relationship with Native Americans in the area. And so the Native Americans and the French are going to join alliances. They're going to become like military allies. And they are going to fight against the King of England. But not really the King of England. It's like more of his soldiers. And then if he needs more people, he's going to force the colonists to support him. So the French and Native Americans are fighting the Englishmen and those colonists that are in America. This incident is called the French and Indian War. But remember, don't get it twisted, because if you don't know history, you're going to think that the French are fighting the Indians. And that's not quite what was going on. It was the French and Indians working together against the English. Well, the fight is going to last 7 years. It's going to be a war. And then the war will come to an end. The King of England will win. And now he will take a lot of land from France. A lot of land. It's all the way up to the Mississippi River. So it's past the Appalachian Mountains going up to the Mississippi River. This area now belongs to the king. And the colonists are like, yay, cool, all right, let's celebrate. Because one of the reasons why they fought this war in the first place, even though they didn't want to, but they fought the war in the first place because they believed that they were going to get that land that was given up by France after the French and Indian War. So the colonists, they got a big plan for what they want to do. I'm going to start a farm. I'm going to build a house for my kids. It's going to be nice. We'll move over further west and get more land. This is the thinking of the colonists for what they expect to happen after the French and Indian War, now that the King of England has so much more land. Well, surprise, surprise. After the French and Indian War, the king told the colonists they could not move into that new area in the West. He says, no, you can't go over there. That land is limits. Don't even think about it. Don't go over there. Don't you know Native Americans over there, and they might kill you. So the king said, you got to stay. You got to stay over here in your colonies. Don't pass that Appalachian Mountain. Don't go over there, because Native Americans are still mad. They're mad about the war. And if they go over there, you're going to start a lot of drama. And then next thing you know, we're going to be back in war again. And I can't do that because war is so expensive. And the king just don't want to be out of that money. So he says, no, I need for you to stay in your colony, stay over there where I can protect you and I can keep you safe. I'm even going to send British soldiers to come over into the area to protect you. He's going to send British soldiers all the way from England, come on over to the colonies to protect these colonies from Native Americans. Well, this paperwork that I'm talking about is called the Proclamation of 1763. Think of it as an imaginary line, a line that goes straight across the Appalachian Mountains that separate those colonists from the territory in the West. Well, the colonists, they're upset about this. They're like, that's just straight up wrong. How are you gonna tell us that we can get more land and we're gonna be able to move west? Now he's talking about we can't do it. What's that about? Now that was bad enough, but then the king said, oh, did I tell you that I'm going to send the soldiers to protect you, but you're gonna have to pay for that. Wait, what? The king said, yeah, you're gonna have to pay. You got to pay for your own protection. The colonists is like, oh my God, this is too much. First, I'm fighting a war that I don't even want to fight. You was threatening me, telling me I got to fight the war, so I joined. Then you promised that you're going to give land to people. Now you're talking about you're not. You say you're going to protect me, but now you're talking about I got to pay for my own protection? That is bananas. How are you going to make somebody pay for their own protection? Get lost. What a pity. Well, the king, he stood firm. He's like, I know you're upset. It's too bad, but that's just how it is. This document called the Proclamation Line of 1763 will be used. It is a legal document that says, stay in your area. Do not go west, past the Appalachian Mountains. Stay in the colonies, and I can protect you. Oh, my goodness. So the drama continues. During this time, you're going to have two different groups of people emerging in the colonies because there's a revolution that's about to happen. Now, a revolution is a sudden change in political power, and it's usually by force and violence. So revolution, when you hear that word, think of a violent word. Things are about to happen. It's about to be some fighting, some chaos. A lot of issues are happening and people are angry. Now, you have two groups of people. You have some people who are going to be called the loyalists. The loyalists are the people who supported King George III of England. They say, you know, it's not really his fault. He's doing the best that he can. You know, it's really Parliament. They're the one who are making all these tax laws that are causing problems for us. So maybe we should just try to work with the king. Maybe we should work with him and not blame him for everything. Those are the loyalists, also called the Tories. Well, there's another group of people like, the king is straight up wrong. He know he wrong. He doing the most. All these taxes, changing his mind, stopping us from going west. That's just unnecessary interference. He can't keep doing that to us. So the group they call the Patriots, they mad at the king. They want to fight the king. They're like, it's on. We need to show him. He can't be disrespecting us like he is. We don't like him. Yeah, those are Patriots. So two different, they have different opinions about America. The loyalists, they support the king, but the Patriots, they don't. They don't like the king. Well, Doesn't matter if you like the king or not. The king got bills to pay. He got to pay for that French and Indian War. The French and Indian War is also called the 7 Years' War because that's how long it lasted, for 7 years. Well, Britain has to raise this money to pay for the French and Indian War. So Parliament, those are the lawmakers back in England, they pass what is called the Sugar Act. Now, the Sugar Act is going to save the king a lot of money because when the sugar is imported back into England, the king wants the price cut in half, that tax cut it in half. This is going to cause him to save money, but it will make the colonists lose a lot of money. The colonists like, oh my God, here we go again. Him messing with our money. He's so wrong. Well, there's a patriot. His name is Sam Adams. Sam Adams, he's an intelligent man, like a lawyer, a politician. He's real smart. He liked to write, you know. So he says, we can't have this. We got to do something about this. Can't have the king disrespecting us like this. Now, Sam Adams, he is going to start a group called the Sons of Liberty. Sons of Liberty, this group, they kind of violent, the Sons of Liberty. They would fight the tax collectors, beat them up and threaten them and try to force them to quit their job. The tax collectors, they worked for the king. Also, Adams, he said, let's start something to make the king change his mind about the Sugar Act. So what he's going to do is start leading a lot of protests. Acts of civil disobedience. That means like you're doing stuff that's wrong. You know it's wrong, but you're going to do it anyway because you're mad. You're mad at the government because you think the government is not treating you right or trying to take advantage of you. So Sam Adams is going to talk to other men in the colonies. They're going to come together and they're starting a lot of problems about taxation without representation. This group called Southern Liberty, Sam Adams, he's one of the main leaders. He says it's not fair that the government is making us pay all these taxes. The king should not make us pay all these taxes, but we don't have any representation. We don't have representation in Parliament because they're too far away. But then when the king takes our money, he's not even letting us give our input about what should be done with the money. And the money should be staying here in our colony, not being sent to a king that's 3,000 miles away. That's not right. Well, Sam Adams caused so many problems for the king, and the king just decided that maybe they should just go ahead and repeal the Sugar Act. Repeal means to cancel. They're going to take away this tax because it's causing too many problems. I guess the king felt it's not worth it. So this was like a small victory for the colonists because now the king just repealed. He just canceled the Sugar Act. 1 point for the colonists. Well, that's fine for a minute, but if the king ain't get you one way, that's all right. He's just gonna find another way to get you. The second way will be the Stamp Act. This is a way to raise more revenue. Now, revenue is just a college word. It means a lot of money. The king is trying to raise revenue to help pay for the French and Indian War. War is expensive. Got to pay the soldiers. Got to pay the food for them to eat. You got to buy the weapons. You got to buy their supplies. You got to have a place for them to stay. War is expensive. It could be in the millions and millions of dollars. I mean, think about the military budget today. Our government spends probably billions on the military. So during this time, the king knows war is expensive. He just had a war. He's got to pay for that. So they come up with this brand new idea called the Stamp Act. Now, the stamp. The stamp was official, like an official seal or a mark that will be placed on any type of legal document, maybe a pamphlet or a newspaper or some kind of certificate. Well, the government is now requiring a stamp be placed on that document to show that it's official. People don't like this. They say, here we go again, with another way to try to get our money. Now, think of the stamp as if you're mailing a letter like today. If you write a letter to your abuela, to your grandmother, you write the letter and you want to send it to her. Now, I know young people today don't even be using envelopes saying, Ms. Brooks, what you talking about? We just text. Yeah. Okay. But let's go back to the old days where you wrote a letter. Now, you can't just take the letter and put it in the mailbox. If you do that, it's going to come back to your home. Return to the sender, something like postage required. You have to buy a stamp, and that stamp goes in the top right-hand corner of your letter. Then you can put it in the mailbox and it will be delivered. Think of that as an official stamp. Also, if you wanted to get like your driver's license or your driver's permit, your college transcripts, your marriage license, your divorce decree, a lot of different documents, your birth certificate, they have an official stamp on it, and it's not free. You have to pay for all those kind of legal documents. So the same thing is happening in the colonies, where they have to pay for official marks on public and legal documents. Well, there's a person named Patrick Henry. He is a patriot. Patrick is a patriot. And Patrick Henry, he is very known. He's famous for saying, "Give me liberty or give me death." The way I kind of interpret that is like Patrick Henry is saying, "You gonna give me my liberty. I got the right to do certain things. And if you don't, then you might as well kill me, because I'm gonna cause a whole lot of problems, a whole lot of drama for you." That's how I like to think of give me liberty or give me death. Well, Patrick Henry is going to encourage other colonists in the area to boycott. He said, "Don't buy anything from the king. We're gonna hurt him by messing with his money. We're not gonna buy from him because he's trying to rip us off. And that's not fair. It's not right." It's kind of like if you go to a restaurant with your family and then you see this waitress, and the waitress is like so rude and disrespectful to you. And then your mom probably say, "We're not going to stay here. We're not going to spend our money in this restaurant because these people acting like they don't have good home training. So we're just going to get up here and we're going to leave. We don't have to stay here and give these people our money." And then on the way out, your mama said, "Well, look, y'all getting ready to come into this restaurant? Don't come in here. They rude and they disrespectful. Don't eat here." And then the people who were going to eat at the restaurant, they turn around and go out. That's kind of how boycotting works. People still do it today. Well, because of so many problems caused by Patrick Henry over the Stamp Act and him influencing the other colonists, the king once again worked with Parliament, and they decided to repeal the Stamp Act. What? Yes, the king and the Parliament, they repealed the Stamp Act. They canceled it. They took it away. That's like victory number 2 for the colonists. So the colonists are like feeling this thing about protesting and using civil disobedience to kind of get your way and make the king and Parliament change their mind. So the Stamp Act was repealed. Colonists was happy that it was now canceled. That brings us to the Townsend Act. The Townsend Act. Now, I told you the king said, if he can get you one way, that's all right. He's just going to find another way. You got smart people working for him. You're going to find another way to get you. That's how it came up with the Townsend Act. When the Townsend Act is named after the person who created this law. This is going to put a special tax on certain items that the colonists like to use. Okay, remember, you cannot do anything without paperwork. So here's the paperwork. It's called the Townsend Act. It's a special tax on items like lead, that goes in a pencil lead, paint, glass, wine, paper. There's a special tax now that you're going to have to pay if you want these items. So it's like, wow, can we just catch a break? That's what the colonists. Can we just get a break from you trying to get our money? It's like, it's just too much. You had the Sugar Act, you had the Stamp Act, now you're talking about the Townsend Act. You forced us to go and fight for you in the war. Then you told us we have to pay for the war. Then you told us we have to pay for the soldiers to come and protect us. Oh my God, can you just please stop for a moment? But the king, he's just focused on paying for this war. And the colonists, you expect them to do their job, which is to help serve the country, make the country rich. Well, the colonists, they don't like all this. So they were protesting over there in Boston, Massachusetts. King George III, he is going to send British soldiers all the way from England into those colonies to stop these colonists from acting like they crazy with all this protesting, causing all this problem, this drama in these colonists. The king he can't have this with these colonists. So the soldiers come over, and a lot of the soldiers, they weren't paid very well, so they got part-time jobs. Now, if the soldiers get a part-time job, that means one of the colonists lost a part-time job. So now the colonists are upset about that. The soldiers are taking our jobs. The bad feelings are reaching a boiling point. It's going to happen when a group of colonists are in Boston and they're just protesting. I don't like you. I don't like the king. He doing too much. Why he got to be like that? Why he got to act like that? So they're just protesting. But the story goes that somebody, I don't know who, but somebody picked up a snowball and they hit one of the soldiers. His name was Hugh Montgomery. He got hit. Then they said accidentally the soldiers start firing, and then some protesters got killed, and we don't really know what happened. Well, okay, I've been a soldier for 22 years in the military, and I do kind of understand how there could be some confusion. If one person shoots, then maybe all the other people started shooting too. Well, but accidentally? I don't know about that part. Accidentally. When the smoke cleared, there were actually 5 people who got killed, 5 colonists, and one was Crispus Attucks. Crispus Attucks, he was a person of African descent. He was biracial. One of his parents were Native American and then enslaved African. But he was considered to be a patriot. He is going to be the first one that is killed at the Boston protests. Now, the newspaper are going to report what happened a little bit differently. The newspaper are going to say it was a massacre in Boston. It was the Boston Massacre. Well, the word massacre means a lot of people got killed, you know, and that does happen around the world. There are massacres where you have like 50, 100, 200 people who are killed, slaughtered. That's a massacre. I get that. But it was 5 people. It's tragic. One person getting killed, that's tragic. But it was 5 people, and they're saying it was a massacre in the newspaper. Well, they did that for a reason. In the newspaper, it was published as a massacre because other colonists were able to read the newspaper in their colony, and now they're seeing all this information about how these soldiers killed innocent colonists. Soldiers killing colonists. And this is going to make a lot of people angry. The whole point is to convince more people to become patriots. Patriots are the ones who do not like the king and they want to overthrow the king. So this story about Crispus Attucks and the other 4 men who died in Boston will be used as propaganda. We're trying to manipulate people's feelings and their emotions by exaggerating and by telling a story from a different point of view that has bias. Bias means you're only telling one side of the story and it's not quite balanced. So you do have to be careful of what you see on TV. You have to be careful about what you read because people have underlying reasons of telling you a story a certain way. Okay. So this is the Boston Massacre. It's important because peaceful protests for the first time will become very violent, where British soldiers actually kill the English colonists. Now, as time passes, things are not getting better between the colonists and Parliament and the king. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. There is going to be a new tax called the Tea Act, where the colonists now feel that the king has really done way too much. The Tea Act is going to make the colonists lose a lot of money. They can't buy tea from any other company, just this one company that was going bankruptcy, but they got some kind of government contract back in England. And so this one tea company was selling all the tea that was sold in the colonies. Well, the Sons of Liberty, this is a group of colonists, they're going to dress up like Mohawk Indians, like a group of Native Americans. And they're going to go to the Massachusetts Bay area where there's the Boston Harbor. And they're going to get on the ship and they're going to take the tea that is in the containers and dump it into the water, into the Boston Harbor. It'll be 45 tons of tea that is dumped into the harbor. Now, 45 tons, that's a lot of tea because 2,000 pounds is 1 ton. So that was like 90,000 pounds of tea that was thrown into the harbor. That's like millions of dollars that wasted. What the colonists were doing, they were protesting against the tax. And they're using what is called an act of civil disobedience. They're doing something wrong and they know it's wrong, but they're mad. They're mad at the king because they think the king is not being fair to them. So they're trying to hurt the king. They're trying to hurt Parliament. And they threw that tea in the water. And it's like, we got you. We got you, king. We wasted your money. Yeah. But the king is not dumb. First of all, the king has spies everywhere. He knows what's going on in those colonies. And he knows that it wasn't Native Americans. It were those English colonists dressed up like Native Americans. And they went and threw the king tea into the water. Now, that was called the Boston Tea Party. And that happened in the year 1773. Well, the king is highly perturbed. Perturbed, that's a college word. Mean he's angry, he's mad. And the king said, oh, you just wasted my money like that? You're so rude and disrespectful. You think you're going to get me? You're not going to get me. You're going to get got. See, the king he got a plan. He's going to work with Parliament, and they're going to create what is called the Intolerable Act. Intolerable, that means like to make you miserable. It's like you can't take it. You feeling the pain. Well, the king is going to punish those colonists for wasting his money like that, throwing his tea in the water, costed him millions of dollars. He said, I'm going to get you. I'm going to get you back. I'm going to punish you. I'm going to make your life hard. I'm about to restrict your civil liberties. I'm going to take away some of your rights. You think you had an issue with taxation without representation. He's like, now I'm going to get some more taxation without representation. Because the king is trying to recover his revenue. He's trying to get that money back that he lost. So the first thing that the king does is he closes the Boston Harbor. No ships go in, no ships go out. Wait, what? Because don't the colonists make their money by transportation and trade? Well, that's over for you. No ships are going in and no ships are going out because the Boston Harbor is now closed. The colonists, they're upset, but what about me? I'm a fisherman. I need to be able to go out and fish and be able to trade. No, you're not doing that because the Boston Harbor is closed. Well, the king said, I got some more ways. There's some more ways. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you back. The king allowed quartering. Now, quartering, if I said I need quarters, I'm not talking about I need a quarter like a coin to go buy something. No, quartering is a military word. If I went to my commander and I said, sir, I need quarters. I'm not talking about I need money, coins. What I'm telling my commander is that I need a place to stay. I need a home. I need an apartment, a hotel room. I need some place to stay. That's what quartering is. So the king says, since you can't pay me back my money, okay, the Boston Harbor is closed. No ships going in, no ships going out. Can't pay me back my money. How about I let these soldiers stay in your house? And you're going to have to take care of them. You'll have to feed them and give them a place to stay. The colonist said, that's not right. That's a form of taxation without representation. The king said, I don't really care about that because you shouldn't have been so rude and disrespectful and threw my tea in that water. So the soldiers won't stay in your house. You feed them. You take care of them. But I only got 3 rooms. I got 1 daughter and I got a smaller daughter and me and my wife, and I don't have enough space. The king said, well, I don't care nothing about that. You better move those 2 girls in the same room and clear out that 1 bedroom because that's what my soldier's going to be. That's how it was. It was called the Quartering Act. Now, the king got another way. He got another way. He gonna get you. He gonna get you. He is going to stop those colonists in Massachusetts from voting. He's like, oh, you used to pick your leaders, your local leaders? No, you're not doing that anymore. You can't pick anybody to be your representative. That's over with. He said, I don't want you to have no more meetings. Don't have no town meetings. Don't sit and talk about the government, because no, you just lost your rights. You're not going to be voting for anybody. You're not going to elect your leaders anymore. That's over with. It's just so much. Then the king, he gave some land over to the Catholic people, and that made the English upset. The English colony, they were mad about that. There's just a lot of restrictions. This was a way to punish those colonists. Now, some people say the king, he went too far. He didn't have to do all that to teach the colonists a lesson, but he did. And he got his money back too. So this problem between the king and the colonists it's not getting better. It's just every time you turn around, it's some new issue, some new tax, or some new thing that the colonist is doing and making the king get angry, and then he got to retaliate against them. Just going back and forth, a lot of drama. Well, the colonists, they got together and they're like, we got to do something about this. It's too much. We have the founding fathers. These are the leaders and the representative who helped organize the 13 colonies. They're going to have a meeting. They're organizing each other. It's like, look, we got to meet. We got to talk. We got to come up with a plan about the king, because we got to stop all these taxes, and we need to stop the Intolerable Act, and we got to let the king know that he can't keep disrespecting us like this. So they formed a meeting. They had a meeting over there in Philadelphia, and they wanted to talk about what should they do. And they decided, like, if the king is bothering one colony, then he bothering all of us, and we're going to be the next in line. If he take the issue too far with one colony, what stops him from taking it too far with the next colony? So the colonists, they decided they're going to just unite. They said, you know, we're not even going to be considered colonies anymore. Forget that. We are independent states. They said each state is independent, and we're going to unite. We're going to be together, but we're all independent. Nobody is the boss of nobody else. We all have 13 independent states. Now, independent, but you together, you're going to help each other. It is a union of states. You get it? Union of states. Later on, that's how we'll get our name, the United States, the Union of States. They're going to work together and help each other and try to solve this problem with the king. But unfortunately, the king is not trying to listen to all of that. And so the king and parliament, they pretty much just ignore the colonists and tell them, you know, don't forget who you belong to, and just do your job, which is to help the mother country get rich. Do your job. We have two different sides of the story. We got the king's belief, but we also have the colonist belief. Now, the king, he believes that he has authority to rule those 13 colonies. He's in charge. He's in control. He also believes that he has the right and authority to use any economic law to help pay for the war. But the colonists, they're not quite understanding all that. The colonists saying, no, we have the right to rule ourselves. We've been doing it for a while. You over 3,000 miles away. How are you going to know what's going on in our colony? Yes, you have a governor, but you don't really know what's going on in our colony. And we should not be taxed by you, Mr. King. The colonists are saying our locally elected leaders, the people that we picked for our representative to form our assemblies, they are the ones who should be taxing us. And then that money needs to stay right here in the colonies, because we have things to do to try to make our life better. We don't need to be sending that money to you. You might get that money and then go pay, you know, some king from some other country that you owe money to. How does that help us? So two different ideas, two different opposing views about taxation and about representation. Nobody is seeing eye to eye. The kings and parliament see it one way, the colonists see it a totally different way, and it's causing the problem. It's causing that revolution to happen. Now, in the midst of all of this, there are two men that the king want captured. And find them, get them. They're rebels. They're rebels on the run. Now, the person is John Hancock and Sam Adams. John Hancock, he was illegally smuggling ammunition and weapons into the colonies. You can do that. The king didn't want to bring in a lot of weapons into the colonies. And John Hancock, he was a merchant. He's also a member of the Sons of Liberty. That's that group. They're a little bit violent. They be protesting and beating up tax collectors. Well, the king wants him arrested. And the king also wants Sam Adams. Now, Sam Adams, he was also a leader of the Sons of Liberty. And he was responsible for a lot of the attacks that were made on the tax collectors. So the king wants these two men. He's sending soldiers over to an area near Lexington, and he wants these two men captured. Sam Adams and John Hancock. They are on the run. Now, when the British Army get into an area near the city of Lexington, you'll see it on that map, there's going to be a scrimmage, some fighting between the colonists and the British soldiers. Nobody knows like who started shooting first. We don't know who started the shooting, but the colonists, they shot at the British Army, and the British Army shot back, so people got killed. This battle was called the Battle of Lexington. Lexington is the location where the fighting was at. The Battle of Lexington. It has a nickname. It's called the shot heard around the world. The Battle of Lexington has a nickname, the shot heard around the world. Now, I like to think of it as like, it wasn't like a real shot that you could hear and it went all across the world. No, it's just that the news got back all the way to England and telling the king that these American colonists, these English citizens, have shot and killed British soldiers. You can't do that. The king like, it's on now. We're about to fight this. We're about to make this real. I can't let them disrespect me like that and kill the soldiers. You can't do that. So this battle is going to be the official beginning of the American Revolutionary War. It's on now. Paperwork is being done, and the war is now in effect, the American Revolutionary War. Now, the colonists during the Battle of Lexington, it was like a slaughter. They had to run, they had to retreat because like there were so many British soldiers that they were outnumbered, and they just, you know, they shot, they fought, and then they ran. Now, when you retreat, that doesn't mean you're running away because you're scared. You retreat because you need a better plan. You got to have like time to think about what do we do next. You have to take care of your wounded, take care of the dead. So they retreated, but they came up with another plan. This time you had the Minutemen. The Minutemen were the local militia. Militia is like a small group of military people. They're people that got weapons. They're people who are forming some support for your state. They're called the Minutemen. And these men is like, they have that name because in a minute they are able to be ready to fight and attack. So this group, they're going to do things a little bit differently. They are going to fight the British, but they're going to do like sneak attacks, hide behind rocks underneath the bridge. They're going to be in the trees, hide in the trees, use snipers, use river bombs. These were different things that the Minutemen learned about by fighting when they fought Native Americans. It was the way Native Americans fought. It's like guerrilla warfare. And the Americans said, we see the way that the Native Americans attacked us. We're going to take that information. We're going to use it to our advantage. And that's what we're going to use these fighting tactics to attack the British soldiers. Well, it works. These military tactics were very successful, and it caused the British Army to actually retreat. So the Americans, they're like, wow, we did it. Oh my goodness. We got the British on the run. And it started giving them confidence that maybe they could actually win this fight against the British Army because they made them retreat. So this Battle of Concord, this was in the city of Concord, you can see it on the map, was another scrimmage, but this time the Americans will be successful and the British will retreat. Now, these are battles, they don't make the war. Think of it like fractions equaling a whole number. So a battle plus another battle plus another battle equals a war. You have times where you're fighting, time when you're resting, time when you're retreating, you're planning. You can have several battles, and battles can last for hours, for days, and then you have all those battles leading up to a war, and a war can last years. Now, after all of this fighting, the war is still going on. We're in the middle of a war, and there's a person named Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson is going to write a document. The document is called the Declaration of Independence. It will be used to inform the King of England that the Americans want to separate. They want to divorce themselves from England. So the Declaration of Independence is paperwork. It's a list of grievances, a list of complaints that the colonists had against the king. And in this document, Thomas Jefferson, he talks about how the colonists have the right to overthrow an oppressive government. He talks about inalienable rights, rights that the colonists have that were given to them by God and not by any man or any ruler or any king. So Jefferson is saying if God gave them those rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then no one can take those rights away from them. Now, Thomas Jefferson just didn't have all these ideas by himself. He had this information that he read from other philosophers, other historians, other leaders like John Locke and William Blackstone, or some of the influencers that Thomas Jefferson was impressed by, their way of thinking, their way of seeing the world and seeing the government. And so he took information that he learned from them and he put in the independence so that the Americans can separate from England. This document was signed on July 4th, 1776. That's why we celebrate with fireworks every 4th of July, because that's considered like America's birthday, July the 4th. But we're really celebrating the signing of the Declaration of Independence, the one that Thomas Jefferson wrote. All right, now they officially separated. The colonists have separated from Britain, but I won't say officially because the king says, I don't hear nothing about that. That's just paper. That don't mean nothing to me. You still are, you belong to me. You're a colonist and you still belong to England. But the Americans, they don't see it that way. They said that we did the paperwork to separate. Now we're starting our own new government and we're going to need another document. The new document will be called the Article of Confederation. For short, I like to call it the AOC. The Article of Confederation set up a new government for the Americans, because Americans pretty much told the king and parliament and the governors, look, you're fired. We don't want you anymore. You can't help us. Go on back to your country. Leave us alone. We'll take it from here. The document called the Article of Confederation, it was written to make sure that the government, the new government, would not be too abusive. The new government wouldn't have too much power. They just said, we are a loose confederation of states. Confederation is just like a group. It's like, think of it like each state was really like acting like their own country, but it's 13 of them and they're all independent, but they're going to help each other. This new document has some strengths, but it also has some weaknesses, and it was done on purpose. The strength were that each state could have their own militia. That's like a small military group, men with weapons that could protect the state. That was a strength, to have your own militia. So each 13 independent state had their own little small military group. Then you have the opportunity to print your own currency. We talk about money. So each of the 13 states were printing their own type of money. Design it, give it the value that you want. For every state, they had their own type of money. Now, Congress altogether, the Union of States, that's because you're going to send representatives, your delegates, like a person from your state to speak on your behalf. When the people united, when those delegates united, they could declare war, and they could also negotiate treaties. They could sign paperwork to end a war. Now, at first, they thought it was a great idea not to have an executive leader. An executive leader is like one person who's in charge over everybody, like a president is one person, but is in charge today of the United States of America. They said it's good that we don't have that, because that one person could get too much power and then start acting like a king, and then we'll have the same kind of drama that we had with King George III over taxes. So no, we're not going to have any single person who's in charge over everybody. That wouldn't be good. And the same was with no judiciary system. They did not have one like court for all of America. They said that would be too much power, and they didn't. The Americans didn't like the fact that like the king was the one who was choosing the judges. And they said that that's not quite fair, because you're going to do what the king wants you to do because the king hired you. So we don't like that. So we won't have a judiciary, a national judiciary for a judge for the whole Union of States. Now, this document, it does have some weaknesses. I just told you the strength, but there are some weaknesses. Messing with people's money is a serious issue. So they said they were not going to allow the government, the central government, like the government, the Union of States, you cannot tax people. You can ask for donations, you can take loans, but you cannot force people to pay taxes, because that's the issue that the Americans had with the King of England. Another shortcoming, and later on these will become serious problems that have to be fixed, is that there's no national army. There is not just one army for the whole Union of States. No, it's every single state had their own little small militia group. Okay, so no national court. There is no court like a U.S. Supreme Court. That will come later. And there's no national currency. That there's not one type of money for everybody in the country. So everything that is a shortcoming later on is going to have to be fixed. But for now, the colonists, now called Americans, they figure it's best to have these weaknesses on purpose, because it's going to protect us. It's going to stop us from being abused. Anybody who could get in charge and get too powerful and take over the military. We don't want that kind of problem. That's what we're dealing with right now. So on purpose, they made the government, the central government, weak, and the states had more power than the actual central government. All right, so in this unit, we learned a lot about the economic policies that were causing a lot of serious conflict between those colonists and between King George III and British Parliament. The lesson doesn't stop here, because these issues between the colonists and the king, they don't get better, they're going to get worse, and that's going to lead us into Unit 3. So I gave you a summary of Unit 2, the causes of the American Revolution. But now Unit 3 will be about the actual war, because the war got started with the Battle of Lexington, and it will continue. I want to thank you today for joining me. It's been great having you stop by the Urban Classroom, because here we are learning about U.S. history from the 13 original English colonies to settling the Western frontier after the Civil War and Reconstruction. I want to give a big shout out to all my scholars at Sugar Grove Academy in Houston, Texas. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching the videos. I want you guys to make sure you watch